Radio Raheem in Manchester, England with the magic man, PAULIE MALIGNAGGI. You know, Paulie, it's kind of a magic hour, if you will, in boxing. So many things going on. Platforms are changing. You've been around for it all, really. You've seen boxing go through a lot of transitions. With HBO, first of all, getting out of the sport, how do you think that affects boxing? And then obviously DAZN making all these acquisitions seems to have a pretty big Brinks truck to back up. How do you think the landscape of boxing business-wise has changed?
I think it's changed drastically, but I think it's in a positive way. You know, I don't think it's a bad thing, because boxing fights have finding different homes, and fighters are able to not only get paid, but you know, get more exposure and get more television time as well. You know, the only negative thing is sometimes the alliances may prevent certain matchups from happening, but at the same time, I think you'll get to see certain top fighters more often during the year because there's more available dates, being that there's so many different networks. So you know, I think there's pros and cons, but it's definitely changed.
You know, it seems like you and I speak more in England than in any place else. Boxing has really started to explode here. The world's gotten a bit smaller. We're here for Bellew and Usyk, two fighters that are very well known in Europe, but not quite as well known in the States, starting to get that kind of notoriety. First of all, how do you see this matchup going? And is either one of these guys like a global superstar before it's done?
I know. I think Tony is kind of reached the pinnacle of his career. You know, he's done well, especially of late. You know, beating the Creed movie, winning the world championship at cruiserweight, getting the 2 wins against David Haye. He's been a solid fighter, and I think he's always been an all-heart guy. So I think that's why he's also gained a lot of notoriety and fanfare here. Obviously, aside from his accomplishments, Usyk to me is just elite level. One of the best fighters to fight in this cruiserweight division, if not the best, with all respect to guys like Holyfield and Tony. I mean, Usyk is just an amazing cruiserweight, and what he did in the World Boxing Super Series really, really impressed me. You know, I find it probably, you know, very difficult for Tony Bellew to win this fight. You know, Usyk is in his prime, and I don't know about the whole global star thing. I mean, it depends what one considers a global star. You know, I think Usyk can be a very big, very popular fighter over in Europe, and I think you get him the right fights in the U.S., it's possible. But I think he's going to probably move on to the heavyweight division after this, and then we'll see. But I think as far as skill is concerned, I mean, he's one of the top fighters in the sport.
As far as moving on to the heavyweight division, he said as much. Not only is he saying he's moving on to the heavyweight division, but just yesterday, he told me he's going to unify the heavyweight titles and then retire. Like, he's got his plan mapped out. Obviously, Anthony Josh was well inside his crosshairs, but with only 15 fights, everything that people say about him at cruiserweight right now sounds exactly like what you've said. But is it biting off a little bit more than he can chew? Is it too soon, maybe, to be thinking about facing these heavyweight fighters?
I mean, I give him credit for having the go-getter attitude. He's a big cruiserweight. He's about 6'3", I think, right? So you know, he can fill into the heavyweight division, I think, pretty well. You know, yeah, it's a bit too soon, of course. You know, I think he's going to hover around the heavyweight division, take some fights, and we'll see how he looks, you know? I don't think, as far as I don't really look at his pro experience, because he's probably had so many amateur fights that you can eliminate the pro experience. You know, they kind of always supersede the pro experience, and you don't have to worry about the lack of experience there. But as far as heavyweight boxing, yeah, you know, I think he's got to probably, you know, get himself used to that division with these bigger guys and whatnot, and we'll see how he does, and we'll see how he looks. But so far as his skill set is concerned, he is pretty amazing. Well,
as Floyd Mayweather made the marker, how much you make decides who's the A side. So I guess we'd all have to agree that right now the ultimate A side in boxing has got to be Canelo with the money that he just signed for, and he's another guy that is moving up in his next fight. First of all, what do you think about Canelo moving up in weight, and does he deserve now that moniker as biggest star in boxing?
It's possible. I certainly think it's between him and AJ as far as the name notoriety and the ticket selling ability that they have and the fanfare they generate. I think Josh was probably the most popular guy on this side of the Atlantic, and Canelo's probably the most popular guy on the other side of the Atlantic, you know? You know, yeah, the amount of money he's going to make is obviously a big contract with DAZN. There's a curiosity about him at super middleweight. I think Rocky Fielding's a solid guy, but he's also a good guy to test himself against. So we'll see. We'll see how it plays out.
Speaking of Mayweather and big money, the guy, whatever you say about him, he continues to find a way to make another huge check. This check that he's got coming, though, may be one of the most criticized I've seen, even more so than McGregor, because at least that was a boxing match. Now he's saying that maybe it's an MMA boxing kind of mashup. It's Japan. It's a guy that most of us have never heard of. He's a kickboxer. How do you take Mayweather's most recent decision to step in and maybe with the octagon, I don't know what it's going to be, in Japan? And would you still count this as another win on his boxing record if he takes that fight?
I think it's going to be a boxing fight. I don't know. I think everybody's just been had. You know, like, I don't know what else you think it's going to be. I mean, you really think the guy at 41 years old is suddenly going to start doing mixed martial arts or kickboxing? I mean, sometimes common sense eludes the general public these days a lot more than we like it to. But, I think it's pretty common sense that it's probably going to be a boxing match. He's 41 years old. He's not just going to step into some other world. He calls the shots. As he himself said, he is the A-side. He decides how it goes, when it goes, and the kind of fight they're going to fight. So I think at the end of the day, he may be fighting a kickboxer, he may be fighting whatever it is, but they're gonna box.
Yeah. But do you think that this is another legitimate boxing match? Will he be 51-0 assuming he wins at the end of this thing?
If it's legitimately sanctioned, yeah. I mean, then if you want to criticize it, go ahead. But I'm saying if it's a legitimately sanctioned boxing match, then yeah. I mean, it goes on your record. You can fight Joe Blow, but if it's a sanctioned fight, it goes on your record. That's how this thing goes. I didn't make the rules. We just got to go by them, though.
Well, one of these guys in heavyweight that we're talking about, like you said, Anthony Joshua is definitely the biggest star on this side of the pond. But there's two guys back home on our side of the pond that are vying for that crown. They both want to fight Joshua no matter what they say. Obviously, it's Wilder and Fury, who's got a fight signed. It's coming up in LA on December 1st. How do you see that fight coming? How do you see the winner of that fight facing measuring up against Joshua?
Well, you hope the winner of that fight can fight Joshua. I think that's always the hope and the anticipation. We'll see if politics get in the way and whatnot. I don't think Fury's the guy that should be underestimated. I don't think he looked that good going into the Klitschko fight, yet he was able to dominate Klitschko. So I don't think you can even take recent form and say, okay, based on the way he looks, you can do this and that against Wilder or not do this and that against Wilder. I think one thing Fury has shown us is that don't judge him for past performances, judge him on the night, because you never know what you're going to get with him. Having said that, Wilder's a tough proposition right now, coming off the biggest win of his career, having overcome adversity. He's a confident guy, and he feels like he can beat anybody in the world. So I'm excited about the matchup.
And lastly, Paulie, a fight that's coming up that has really got everybody talking. It kind of reminds me of when Bronner stepped up to 47, faced you, and people were like, is he too small? Is he going to be able to perform at 47? Mikey Garcia stepping up to 47 to face Errol Spence. I've heard it from both sides. Some people think Mikey's going to do it, he's going to dominate, and some people think like Spence is too big, and this is way too much of a leap in weight. You're a guy who's had to deal with this kind of thing. What do you think about Mikey's decision, and how do you see the fight shaking out?
I think they're both very, very good, fundamentally sound fighters, and I think that in their respective weight classes, they are dominant forces. But I think weight classes exist for a reason, and Mikey going up to 47 is not just coming from lightweight or super lightweight. This is a guy who's fought at featherweight. So I think it's a tough fight. I think Errol Spence is a really, really tough proposition for full-blown welterweights. And his power is a tough proposition for full-blown welterweights. So I think at the end of the day, that will probably be the difference in a fight between two very good fighters. It's just weight classes matter.
We've talked about a lot of fights in the span of this interview, and we won't even get to them all. So with 2019 coming up, man, and 2018 ending with a bang, what's fight either that's made or that could be made that Paulie Malignaggi most wants to see?
Joshua and the winner of Wilder and Fury.
Radio Raheem agreeing with Paulie Malignaggi here in Manchester, England. We're here for Usyk and Bellew on Saturday night. Always a pleasure to talk to you, man. Radio Raheem with the Magic Man, Paulie Malignaggi.